What's up, Mortgage Coach community? We have an amazing call today. Kristin Messerli is going to talk about the millennial housing opportunity. Seeing the slides that she sent over, guys, we get comments all the time on how much people like her images. I know Deborah Bird and the Plug and Play team love them too, because they always turn them into social media content. So that's always fun. Kristin, welcome to the Mortgage Coach community and the weekly mastermind.
Thanks for having me.
It's good to have you. So before we put you on the hot seat and go through your slides, we've got Mr. Win by Noon on the call today. Todd, welcome. And anything you want to say to frame today's conversation?
You know, I mean, we use the word opportunity, and I think that that's what this time is. It's so funny. I was talking to my brother-in-law who's on our team yesterday. He's been in the business for about 4 years. And he just said that right now he's getting more new realtors than ever. He said he's busier than ever. And he said, I'm not going to get in that mindset that everyone else is, that this is a bummer of a market. I'm focused on the opportunity that's out there right now. And so I loved hearing that because, of course, he's family. So it's always hard to quote unquote coach your family. And so anytime that we can have Kristin on and she can really share her wisdom about, the opportunities, I think that's great. And of course, I'd be remiss if we didn't have a little banter about the Modern Mortgage Summit, Modern Real Estate Summit next week on Wednesday, the 8th, just because that's such a great opportunity to get in front of your realtor partners. I've been responding to emails and got a couple of phone calls today from people who watched the event, the Tuesday interview that we did with Adam Nelson from Win by Noon that Deborah and I did a few weeks back on how to host an event. We've got more people now doing movie theaters than ever. Even Jeremy Forcier said on Tuesday, oh my gosh, I'm writing that down. I'm gonna start calling some movie theaters. Just an easy opportunity to buy a ticket for $100 and stick a bunch of realtors in a room. And even if they don't show up in the room, you've got the opportunity that you're calling them, offering them something of value that they can come hang out with you. So even if they don't take you up on it, you've made those connections. So I think it's just so important. I'd recommend watching that video and figuring out how you can use this as a leverage point. And even if you're like, I can't put an event together by Wednesday, that's great. Do it the next week at any day. It doesn't really matter when you do it because you'll have access to the show for 30 days to a year, depending on which pass you buy. And you have that opportunity to literally, you can go in there, hit play, and then you can watch the whole show later. It doesn't have to be when we do the live event. So they'll never know. And last thing I'll throw out there, people seem to be super stoked. We added Tom Ferry on as a speaker for the Real Estate Summit. So in addition to the #1 loan officer in the country, the #1 real estate agent in the country, the #1 real estate agent at EXP, the #1 real estate agent at Real Brokers, I mean, we got an all-star lineup for both events. And both events are one ticket. You don't need to pay for two.
Yeah, and real quick, guys, because I have been getting lots of people asking questions. It starts at 8 a.m. The schedule is in our group and on social media, so you can get that out. And then also, while I think the idea of doing a theater is great, and the more you can touch people, the better. But at the end of the day, there's no better gift than this. So literally for $1,000, you get 25 tickets, and an influencer pass, $2,500 for 100. So I would say the two most important things are that you have this, call it the modern real estate professional conversation with agents, and you use the content from this. I also want to remind everybody that we transcribe all the presentations. We have an e-learning expert that turns those into taking action notes, so that not only do you have the content, but you have notes that you can use to have better conversations with agents, to create more value for agents on your social media. So anyways, check it out. I think, how many tickets have we sold, Todd? Over 6,000?
We're over 6,000 sold. And, we're just so grateful for everyone who's participating. We've got a lot of companies in there, but I would say, the big last minute push has been, we've sold a bunch of top producer passes in the last 24 hours. Cause it's just not too late to pick up the phone and reach out to, 25 of your favorite realtor partners and help add value to them, because the opportunity is here for them. Also, a lot of them are kind of in that, scarce minded, like, hey, I'm really worried about this market. And it's just going to be a great opportunity because you've got all these leaders in the industry talking about marketing, branding, team building. I don't know what Tom Ferry's talking about, but I know it's going to be just pure gold. David Childers will be there talking about how to talk to your clients about a recession, just things I think that are going to be really valuable to them as well as you.
Cool. D Bird, any opening thoughts, anything you want to say before we bring Kristin on stage?
Just want to hit on, these are the top guns that are going to be at the summit, and no pun intended with the movie coming out, but this is the time, this is what you train for. So you're going to be in a room even if you can't attend on June 8th, get the pass where you get the 365-day access pass. So don't allow that excuse of, oh, I already have plans Wednesday. That's okay. Get your pass so you can go back and rewatch it. But just to dangle a little carrot, my talk is going to address this issue right now, the home affordability. And I'm not going to go over the strategy now. You're going to have to tune in on Wednesday. But this is a serious problem and challenge, and we're delaying millennials from being able to generate wealth. And so I challenge you all to listen, look at these stats. Kristin's going to bring amazing content today, but then we have to be able to take action, because I do believe this is a serious problem. And I'm a millennial, I'm an older millennial, and I don't want to see anyone denied a loan because of affordability. Maybe they don't know certain mortgage strategies that the TCA could help solve for that, which again, tune in Wednesday and I'll break all that down. But y'all need to lock in right now and take notes, because Kristin's about to drop some bombs. I know it.
All right. Before I bring Kristin on, I just want to frame one more thing. And, at Mortgage Coach and Sales Boomerang, this is our ethos: no borrower left behind. And we're serious about it. I mean, it is a mission. And I quite frankly, until recently, didn't realize just how many borrowers we were leaving behind, where people are they don't know the numbers. And they, there's a lot of emotions around homeownership, and there's a lot of things for the millennial generation. But we as an industry, we need to go beyond pre-qualifying consumers. Like I think if all you're doing when you talk to a millennial or anyone who's a first-time home buyer, they're not in a home, and that you don't do a rent versus own analysis, you don't provide some level of financial literacy training. And when I say training, it doesn't mean a long workshop. I mean, it can be 5 and 10 minutes of core concepts where you're personalizing what homeownership means. Like, I think it's our responsibility. We'll talk more about that as the content goes. But Kristin, I know you could have probably put a 200 slide deck together, and I think you got 25 slides. So why don't you tell us, kind of give us a high level overview, and then let's get into it.
Yeah, sounds good. It sounds like everyone's going to have lots to share on this. Deborah, I'm excited about the talk you're doing next week. And it sounds like there's some things you could chime in here related to that. But the overall, the goal here is to come out with solutions. But I want to lay the groundwork for talking about where we are as a generation, what the, how it compares to previous generations in terms of what we're looking at with student loan debt, income levels, housing prices, low inventory, all the things that we, hear about. But I think I want to set a foundation there.
Data points, guys. Data points. Think of this as like data points.
Yeah, I've got lots of data points, so feel free to stop me along the way, and we can talk through those. But then I want to get into talking about the getting into actual opportunities and solutions. So I'm going to touch on some of the challenges leading into that, and then we'll get into some solutions as well. So ready for me to kick it off?
We are ready, and if we don't see your slides, we'll let you know. Remember, guys, this is Mastermind style. If you have questions, comments, put them in chat, whether you're watching this on Zoom, Facebook, or YouTube. Let us know what you're thinking, and rock it out, Kristin.
All right, cool. So the National Association of Realtors had released their newest report on home buyers that showed us that 43% of home buyers this year are millennials. So we have a lot of millennials that are in the market, which is awesome. But I will talk about why I think there could be a whole lot more as we go into this. Millennials face new economic challenges. If you look at, and I'm going to compare 1980 to today in a few different stats here, but the real median family income has grown by 25%, while the median home price has grown by 60%. So that ratio, when you look at that, and I'll share a graph that shows that here, it's higher than it was even in the housing bubble. It's way higher than it ever was before. So I think that's important to frame up where we are, the affordability challenges that Deborah mentioned. And I know we're always hearing about it, but that ratio to me was a lot higher than I expected to see it.
And so if you look at the comparison between 1980 and today, so thinking about when, I don't know, would that be when baby boomers were around this time? But anyway, we've got a span of time here that shows the homeownership rate hasn't changed very much. But then you look at every other aspect of this and it's really significant. So we talked about the home price to median income ratio. And then I adjusted all of these numbers here to inflation. So I used an inflation calculator to calculate this so we can think about it in today's terms. But the median home price comparatively 165 to 428 today. You look at the income level, the income was actually higher if we adjust it to with inflation. Student debt, of course, was way lower. We know that that has changed significantly through the years, but I think it's important to the conversation. And then starting salary with a bachelor's degree was higher if you adjust it for inflation. So I think this just paints an interesting story as we talk about affordability and what millennials are entering into the market in this kind of environment.
Hey, Kristin, pause real quick. I want to call out, and I'm pretty sure what I'm going to say is accurate, but I mean, this is really what we're seeing right here. This is the only place people could see it. Like you created this slide, because I know when you and I first started this conversation a few weeks ago, we had like fragments of this data from different sources. But guys, this is like unique content right here. Like there's a lot of work that went into this, going through different data points, deciding what are the six, doing the inflation adjustment. So first of all, thank you, Kristin, a real service to the industry. Can't wait for the article that we're going to write. But I just, from a social media standpoint, from an education standpoint, I just want everybody in this room right now know that you could go in and do at the end of this session, you could go and do a training at a college or a high school and literally be showing things that no one else knows, like you're teaching people about a problem in a pretty unique way. So you're killing it. Keep it rocking.
Well, one thing is that what stands out to me is look at the student debt versus income now versus back then. That's pretty crazy. And my entrepreneur friends, they all talk about, don't spend your time on college, get a real education out there working. And this definitely supports that. As someone who is overeducated myself for our career, it just says in the mortgage world, right? You guys can come out with or without a college degree, crush it, and certainly crush these numbers for sure.
In this industry, absolutely. I would be curious. That's a good point to bring up, that I should look at what the starting salary is without a college degree and compare that. But in this industry, there's that massive opportunity, and I think in some others. But yeah, I thought it was really interesting when you adjusted for inflation, how big of a difference this was. And thinking about buying a home in this space, we'll talk about this in a little bit, but with student loan debt, there's also a lot of myths around whether or not you can buy, and that is contributing to millennials entering the market too. But the other thing I wanted to call out is the racial wealth gap. This is, I don't know if it's widening, but it certainly hasn't gotten any better. If you look at, 43% of millennials are buying homes this year. Awesome. Well, 84% of them are white, and almost half of millennials are made up of ethnic minorities. So this is not even kind of close to reflective of of our communities. And then the median income of the home buyer today, millennial home buyer, was $100,000, which is 54% higher than the median income of Black millennials. And so I think this is an important conversation that needs to at least be part of the conversation as we talk about millennials and the wealth gap in general, or housing opportunity in the future. And then I did run some numbers here as well. So looking at the homeownership rate, this is all specifically at the age of 30-ish with the millennial data that we have. And the homeownership rate is obviously, there's a big disparity there. Median income is significant, 81 versus 46,000. And then I wanted to throw in a couple of other aspects here, like parental median wealth. white families, 84,000 versus Black families, 15,000. And net wealth is significantly different. So, we have talked about this before, but the impact of redlining and a lot of discriminatory practices and policies in our space have created this kind of wealth disparity. And I think it's really important that we acknowledge it and work toward, as people who can bring a solution to that, we are aware of that and what does contribute to wealth, and that they're already looking at the disparity. We're off to a rough start in communities of color because parents aren't able to contribute to, in a lot of instances, aren't able to contribute to their down payment. They didn't have, a history of wealth being passed down through real estate, for instance. And historically, Black millennials have to take out more student loan debt and have less support from family members. So something to bring up there. So that's kind of just generally talking about some of the demographics, but now I want to get into talking about the state of millennial home buyers and some of the major data points that I think are the biggest challenges and opportunities as we think about going into this generation. So one is student loan debt that has hit a high, but again, I think that I just interviewed actually Catalina from Loan Sense, who I know has an integration with Mortgage Coach. I'm such a huge fan of hers and the work that they're doing to not only reduce student loan debt, but be able to advise people on managing their debt. Because I think that there's a big myth within the millennial generation that if you have any amount of student loan debt, that you're not going to be able to buy. And so I really think as advisors and people in the mortgage coach community, this is a big area to be able to bring to college students or all millennials and educate people on, you can buy a home, or let's make a plan and it not feel so out of reach. So a couple other points on that. More than 50% of home buyers, according to NAR, said that student loan debt delayed their home buying. And we also asked people about this in the home buyer report. And it also was a significant number that said that student loan debt was one of their top barriers when buying a home. And then college grads with debt needed to save for, on average, 4 years longer for a down payment, and I need to put this in there, but of 20%. And so I think, again, it goes to the point of educating people on not needing to wait for the 20% down, or understanding, again, how to manage that debt. Anything you guys want to add on student loan debt?
I just want to add, like, from a mortgage coach mission perspective, that is something that we love that Catalina and team created what they do. And anytime we see a technology or someone doing things that we think helps with the mission, we're always looking to integrate it into Mortgage Coach. Now, we can create the tech, we can make it available, but we need you as members to check it out. Like, that's something that we've put out there. We've had some people kick the tires on it, but we haven't had enough people. So if you have questions, put a link down below. If you go to our partners page on Mortgage Coach, you can find more information on that. Robert, if you could share a link so people can get smart on that. We also have another platform. I'm forgetting the name of it at this moment. Robert, if you know the name, share it in chat. But it's like a pricing engine for down payment assistance programs. Do you know the name of it, Kristin?
Down payment resources, right?
Down payment resources. So first of all, you could go there now and start using this. And to me, it's about the mission. Like most tech companies, they don't really spend the time and resource to integrate something in their technology unless it's going to help them sell a new client, or it's someone that's really big and they say, hey, if I do this integration, I'm going to win new clients because of it. And at Mortgage Coach, while we also prioritize integrations that way, when there's something that's on mission that like we need to make sure the world knows about, we're still going to do it. So this is one that I'm really proud of our team, that we prioritized our mission over profits, and that down payment assistance is one I'm pretty proud of our team for, because we prioritize that over profits. But guys, we can do our part as loan officers. If you're a leader on this, if you're a loan officer on this, you got to do your part, and you got to look into it, have a meeting, get a demo, check it out. And I would say that as a whole, the mortgage industry is not doing our part, when it comes to helping with things like this. We're chasing profits over purpose. And I know that everybody in our community is a purpose-driven. Well, you're either purpose-driven or you want to be purpose-driven, but if you don't take the time to learn these things, you're not being purpose-driven. So anyways.
And I just want to add to that, Dave, that any of the plug and play clients, it just so happens our theme for June, and I didn't even know that this was going to be our, main topic today, but it's all about student loan debt. And so our video marketing series and all of the scripts and the hooks that we provided, because if you think about it, May, we had a lot of people graduating, whether it was from college or high school. So if you could proactively get in front of these young students before they start acquiring all of that debt, imagine just the shift of trajectory that you could have and the impact if you just got there a little bit sooner. And these slides right here is what you could make as your kryptonite. I mean,
yeah, no doubt. And it's in our partner page under data and analytics in the bottom left-hand corner, it's Loan Sense. And Robert, could you, I don't think we can take them right to that page, but let's make sure we give them the link. There's a download guide that has some education. We'll give you guys a link to that. And so check it out. And Todd Bookspan, I know you got to jump at halftime, so feel free to chime in anytime.
I'm just loving what you guys are saying. I'll keep let Kristin keep talking.
Cool. Yeah, I think that I talk to friends all the time who say things like, just 2 days ago, I had a friend over who was talking about how she wasn't going to even think about buying till she paid off her student loan debt. And it was just so happened I had interviewed Catalina earlier that day. And so it was on my mind, and I shared information with her, and I thought, people aren't getting this information. I mean, we know that and we talk about that all the time, but when we get to solutions, I think it's going to be really important that we talk about how do you get out there, not just educate people when they come to you, which is a shift because I think the industry's been very focused on the refi market in the past, and now we're shifting towards purchase. But how do you get even further ahead of people before they are, before they're even talking to you? This is just another graph we can look at later, but the low inventory is a factor that we're always talking about, but 2021 saw the highest rate of investor purchased properties than ever before. So that was significant. And this is just a chart to show you over the last year, or I think it's the last 2 years, how housing inventory has shifted. And we know that we're reducing in the amount of inventory, and some of that is because of the amount of investors who are hedging against inflation in hedge funds and that type of thing. But also we've got new corporate buyers and things like that in the market, more so than previous years. But one of the big areas that I think is interesting that I don't hear talked about as much is with millennials, we have delayed marriage and household formation, which has continually happened. I mean, in 2018, less than 60% of people ages 25 to 34 either had a spouse or partner versus 80% in 1967. So not surprising data there, but it's important as it reflects on low inventory because that does create a higher demand for multifamily units. And multifamily unit construction is historically low, not just because of, there were supply chain issues in the pandemic and that type of thing, but also there's zoning law challenges. And some of that is getting worked on in many cities, but it's still a big challenge. And this just goes to show you the 1 to 2 person households and that make up the largest owner occupied multifamily units. And then the last big challenge I want to bring up here is education, which we've talked about this very recently with Mortgage Coach on the Mortgage Coach community. And I'm talking about it all the time. And I know this is dear to everyone's heart here, but I want to emphasize again how big of a deal education is and just millennials buying myths that are not true about when and how to buy a home. Of the millennial home buyers that we interviewed, so people that were already in the market buying or recently bought, 1 in 4 said that their biggest challenge while buying a home was a lack of understanding. So it's a big amount of the market, and 1 in 5 said that they were not confident in any step of the home buying process. So there's just overall a lack of confidence, a lack of education. And there's a lot of like myths, like the 20% down payment. Over half of home buyers, these are millennial home buyers, that said over half that you needed to save for 20%. And so the general market is going to be even more significant. And I know there's a lot of data out there, but this just really drilled home to me how many people think that 20% is required. And it is more significant in communities of color as well.
Hey, but if you could pull down that slide, because we got about 5 minutes, and Todd, Todd's got to jump at halftime. And so I want to give Todd a few minutes. I want to say a few things to that slide, but Todd, anything you want to share, anything you want to make sure people hear before you jump?
Well, I think I just want to reinforce what Kristin just said, right? I mean, we have an opportunity, and I think kind of, as you said, Dave, we almost have an obligation to be educating and letting the community know really what's going on. I mean, when I see the gap between white homeownership and minority homeownership, I mean, I'm embarrassed by that. I think that's just, it's one of those things that we all as an industry need to work better on. But I think when Kristin arms us with this data, that's what I love every time Kristin comes on, because she brings data that I just don't see anywhere else. That now we have talking points, right? We've got talking points. Most importantly, to do the plug and play, Deborah plug, is to get out there on social media and start talking about, right? That's the easiest way for us to all do it. And then those of us who are superstars, right? We got Walt Schultz. He's going out into high schools and colleges and teaching financial literacy. And then the bottom line is we've got an opportunity of time right now. So I'm saying take the opportunity to go out there and grow your business, but also, maybe you can put a little sliver of time in there, maybe a few hours a month, where you figure out, how can I go out there and educate the community and really take this knowledge, first to your social media channels, then really look at your real estate partners, right? Let's let them also understand this data, because if you can take what Kristin's sharing with you and reshare and let other people have it so they can reshare it, then that's how we as a community here, the mortgage coach community, can have a huge impact on, the entire country. And I think that's why I love the fact, Dave, that you said, hey, yeah, normally companies are profit driven in the mission and the things that they do. And I do believe that obviously is what companies need to do, because they've got shareholders. But in the end, you're right. I mean, I love seeing the fact, like I said, that mortgage coaches invested money into these other things. And I always just look at it. And again, I say, gosh, well, what could I do differently and better? And talk about the student loan stuff. And, so I popped open the Loan Sense link. I'm going to research that again. I heard you talk about it a year ago when you guys did that integration or whatever it was, and, never did anything with it. And so now we have this time to take action. Me, I'm all about, let's sit here. We've learned now for the last 20 minutes from Kristin, like we got another 30 minutes to learn, and then we get the opportunity to take action. So I would just encourage you, when you get done, spend a few minutes, write down your top 3 ideas. Hey, these are the 3 things that I can do over the next 90 days. And then just figure out what's the first step that you can do today to get it into action. And I think that'll be just a fabulous, fabulous opportunity.
So Todd, I am looking forward to seeing you Monday or Tuesday, and can't wait to be on stage for a full day, Modern Mortgage Summit next Wednesday. So go get on the road, get out here to SoCal, and let me know when you're ready to meet up.
Heck yeah, I can't wait to see you. We'll see you out there, Deborah, as well. And, again, I just want to say thanks to you, Kristin, for what you're doing today, but also just the community. I mean, the support that we continue to get for Modern Mortgage Summit, for Win by Noon, for, Mortgage Coach and Plug and Play through all of you. It just, it means a lot to all of us. So just in case we don't say it enough, just want to make sure I say thanks.
Right on. Take care, brother. So,
all right, guys.
So Kristin, I want to just talk for a few minutes about this, because that's the other thing. While I say profit or purpose over profits, guys, you can do good for yourself and do good for the world. So, going out, and when I push you guys to go speak at high schools and colleges, I'm expecting you to get loans from teachers. I'm expecting you to say the right things so that kids are going home and telling their parents, and you're getting loans. So I want to really be clear. Mortgage Coach is not a nonprofit. We're a for-profit business. But we can do really well profits, and we can also do really well for the world and helping people build wealth with real estate. So I wanted to say that. And then I wanted to drill down on that down payment thing. So how old is the oldest baby boomer?
Oh, I have no idea.
Excuse me, not baby boomer, millennial.
41, according to it varies by where you define the generation, but National Association of Realtors does 41, older millennials 34 to 41.
So another thing we don't talk about enough is there's a lot of millennials that are homeowners that are they're like first time move up home buyers.
Yeah.
And I have yet to hear anyone really do something targeted. We do a lot of targeted things for first-time home buyers, but we don't do a lot of targeted things for first-time move-up home buyers. And, you know, so there's not a lot of education like that move-up analysis where you can help a millennial look at, hey, this is the home you're in, you know, you got another kid, or you have some new life goal, and we're going to help them see moving up and the benefits of moving up. Like, this could be your opportunity right now to still, if you're selling entry-level homes, it's still pretty hot. But where it's starting to really slow down is the high end and everything between. So there's a lot of first-time millennial home buyers that can really pull the trigger in what I'd call a dual market, sell in a seller's market, and start to buy in a colder market. That's not even a topic. And here's the deal. Not only do first-time home buyers not realize what the down payment is, first-time move-up buyers don't understand how they can sell a home and move up into a home. So I just want to call that out. It's a massive opportunity. Kristin and I will let's try to figure that out. How many actual homeowners are there?
52% of older millennials are repeat home buyers.
Okay, well, let's do a whole little, when we do this article that we're doing this on, let's make sure we call out that. You know, 'cause I think when people hear the millennial opportunity, it's like first-time home buyers. No, let's make sure now it's first-time home buyers and it's first-time move-up sellers and buyers. And let's make sure we provide some slides, we provide some education, and we really arm the industry to go out there and let's get millennials to list their home for the first time. All right, well, let's keep, Deborah, anything you want to ask or say before Kristin gets back into slides?
Yeah, I was just reflecting on my own journey, and I was thinking I had bought and sold my 4th home by the age of 31. And for those of you, I'm going to call out Mike Garrett with Movement Mortgage. He was an old football coach, and he's been going into the classrooms and with teachers teaching this stuff. And guys, when I think about my own journey, the reason why we bought and sold that many times is because I was married to a coach. And so if you get into the school districts, find out who the athletic directors are, feed those guys and girls food, and do a class, because right now in June and July is when a lot of the contracts end and you have teachers or coaches that are moving. Most coaches are constantly trying to move up the ladder. You know, they want to get to the varsity position. So that could be a great angle right now. I remember when we were both 2 teachers and coaches when we were doing this, and I was like, I think we have an escrow account. I don't really know how it works. I mean, we had not a clue when we were selling a home, buying. We didn't it was overwhelming of the timing. And I think that's the one thing when you show the move up analysis, but also having the extra steps of the education and the conversation of you have to actually sign on the dotted line on the home that you're selling before, like even if it's an hour before, because of how you transfer. I mean, all of that can delay or cause people to rent because they're like, oh, I just don't know how it's all going to time out. And then, you know, for those of you who have, you know, bridge loans or other products that could give people opportunities to win in this market, those are other pieces of content that you could spread. And when I saw your stats, Kristin, on the education, I just want all of you from Coach Deb right now, like, it's never been easier. Where are millennials consuming content right now? It's on social media, and guys, it's free. So it's not like you have to pay ads like in the old days with newspapers and magazines and radio ads. It's literally free. You get on, and I write the scripts. We have a marketing strategy where it literally gives you the hook with the talking points that all you have to do is hit record so that you're providing that education. Because I'm ashamed at this point that due to having internet on our phones since 2010, when they officially came on the iPhone, how connected that we are and where millennials are spending, you would think they would be the most educated if we were all doing our part.
Yeah, no, it's amazing what you can learn on that too. Like you know, I'm not a millennial. Yeah, I'm 57 years old, and
No way.
yeah, I am. There are a lot of Instagram accounts where I'm learning things, like, you know, they're awesome. By the way, Annie Carter, she mentioned, I find it hard to believe that starting salaries in 1980 were 65,000. I want to remind you, Annie, that's adjusted by inflation. So you're right. Like, when I first read your comment, I'm like, I know, I better call this out. Kristin made a mistake. And then, like, my brain did like a lap and like, oh no. So that's adjusted to inflation. And so we're just normalizing it based off of what a dollar is today. So FYI, Annie, I did the same thing for a second. And guys, keep your questions coming. There are no bad questions. And Annie, I guarantee you are not the only one that had that lap in your brain.
Definitely.
You thought, we did a little lap. Thank you for sharing it. And everybody, make sure you realize that. And back to you, Kristin.
Yeah, so a couple things back on what Deborah was talking about. I think one thing to mention around demographics is that single women make up the second largest cohort of home buyers, double that of single men. And yet they're significantly less likely to be refi borrowers. And I don't know what the stat is on that, but I remember seeing the data that it was like significantly less likely. I sent it to a company I know that does like refi kind of or portfolio retention solution type stuff. And I realized, because I was like, man, this is a huge opportunity. But when you think about the financial literacy gap that is well documented within by gender, and then we're looking at generational and racial lines as well, that's where, your conversation around managing your wealth beyond just a purchase, like how are you helping your customers, educating your customers on not just a refi, but other opportunities around managing their wealth. And I think as mortgage coach advisors, we have such a huge opportunity to be able to do that and educate on different programs and things like that people just really don't know about. So, but the last challenge I wanted to bring up before we go into talking about some of the strategies, and I want to come back definitely to video and social media, but was the level of distrust that we have as a society and specifically as home buyers. So I'll share this slide. This is one that I think is really underlying everything that I want to call out specifically. But 2 in 3 home buyers, millennial home buyers, said that they did not think lenders were trustworthy or reliable. And these are people that are, again, already buying homes. I think the general market number is going to be significantly higher. And I think that if you look at where we have a growing distrust in all institutions, like I used to only focus on talking about financial institutions. And of course, that's what we're focused on. But if you look at, government, media, faith-based institutions, everywhere across the board, millennials and Gen Z are increasing their distrust, and everyone of all generations, but specifically with our generation, I think partly due to technology and access to information and just changes in our society, that is our inclination, and our first approach is to distrust, especially someone in sales or that we believe is selling us something, and especially someone who is selling us the biggest financial transaction of our lives, and I think that on top of things, experiences like the housing crisis and things like that really influence our overall feeling around buying a home. And then on top of that, you hear about how the market is crazy. Are we in a bubble? And these different things. That's going to create so much anxiety and stress that it's very difficult for us to even think about going down that road. And that's where things like, and we'll definitely talk about this getting into opportunities and strategies, but a rent versus own and things like that become extremely valuable.
A first-time home buyer move-up analysis. Go back to that slide real quick, Kristin. Deborah Bird, if you wouldn't mind reaching out to Todd Duncan, because when we write this article, we would love some indexes and some metrics around trust. Obviously, we've got one right here. This is, the Next Gen Home Buyer Report, but we would love some other sources that measure trust in America. Would you mind seeing what you could dig up from Todd and sharing that with Kristin and I?
Yes, I will do it.
All right, thank you. So again, a reminder, everyone, we're writing a very comprehensive, well-researched, super thoughtful piece of content that it's going to be our gift to the industry. And, the goal Kristin and I have is that we do better, guys. Like, how can we do better and how can we get better? Not just, this is not a call for doing nonprofit work. This is a call for, this is a massive opportunity in the market. It's also a real problem in America, and it is not sustainable. The direction we're going with affordability, the direction, the millennial housing gap, like we call this the millennial housing opportunity, because it is an opportunity to make money and help people, but it's also an unsustainable issue. And I do believe that mortgage and real estate, we can solve it. Like government isn't solving the problem. In fact, I don't want to go on a rant. Regardless of what side of the aisle you're on, it's not getting solved. But mortgage people, like, do a rent versus own, do a first-time home buyer, move up home buyer analysis. Like, we can help solve this grassroots from the industry out. So back to you, Kristin.
Well, and Dave, can I just add to that I actually used Kristin's 2020 Next Gen Homebuyers Report last year with my clients, teaching them that there was a paragraph in there of just the bigger why behind this distrust, and that I think we forget millennials were kids when the housing crash was going on. So although they may be better budgeters because their parents were having those difficult conversations with them, they don't have any money to save is the problem. But they aren't super trusting of lenders, possibly because of the fact that they were, growing up during the housing crash. So one way that I help my clients through social is, your words sometimes don't mean anything when there's not trust. So one way to disprove that, thing that's renting space in their head is when you show a total cost analysis. Now you're proving it. And so it's no longer trusting the word when you're not trusted just from kind of your title and job role, because you have to break through that barrier. That is why you have to consistently show up online, showing your TCA. So it's not you and your opinion, it's fact and it's data.
Yeah. I talk about a TCA and rent versus own on every single presentation I do now, because I'm always talking about distrust. And I know how powerful that is because I personally experienced it and it changed everything for me. But I think that this is where the big opportunity is. If you think that everyone in the industry is not to be trusted, or you feel a lot of skepticism, anxiety, and you have all of that coming to the table, and then you meet someone that you can trust, or they empower you with information that allows you to feel that you can you can make a smart decision for yourself. That is the huge opportunity. And not only will you get their business, but for people who are more distrusting, we become your best advocates and referral partners. I think that that's a just massive opportunity. So speaking of opportunities, I want to go through a few things and then definitely open it up for more of a discussion, because I think there's a lot that we could dig into here. But I wanted to share this framework that I've been talking about more recently around how to build a customer experience that will connect with millennial home buyers. And I think there's 3 layers to this. One being education. We know education, as we've been talking about, is so important. But I think that education has to be layered with empathy, meaning how to connect with the consumer. You are understanding of where they're coming from. You're listening to them. This is why I care a lot about what experience.com does, automates that process of collecting their voice. But another aspect of empathy is knowing where to deliver and how to deliver that information. So like using, we'll talk about video in a second, but video and social media platforms, all of that is how you're delivering that education. We know you can't just put together a class and people sign up and, you might get a few, but the vast majority, you need to understand how they're going to consume the information. And then lastly, empowerment, meaning you are, again, empowering them with information that they feel that they have ownership over, like they truly feel that they can understand that. And I'm going to dig into a little bit more on empowerment, but I wanted to pause and see if Dave or Deborah had anything.
Well, I've heard you talk about this, in different ways, but the conversation we had on Zoom a couple of days ago, which, by the way, Kristin and I are working on what we're calling the state of the industry halftime report, because it's halftime, and so we're writing a very comprehensive study of all the changes that have happened, the trends in the market, and we're highlighting the biggest opportunities for lenders. And we're writing it not just to loan officers, we're also writing it to the C-suite. So it's a piece of content that we're putting a lot of time in. We're actually collaborating and interviewed Clayton Collins with Housing Wire and Logan. How do we pronounce Logan's last name again, Kristin?
I never
okay, I'm not going to try. But I mean, I've interviewed Bill Dallas yesterday, Jake Jacobson, the CEO of Fairway, 15 different industry leaders, Sue Woodard, some of the most influential people. And, one, what are the trends? And then two, what are the opportunities? And first of all, I hope we put this in our article, because I think this framework, when you look at everything you need to do to be successful, gain market share, get loans now, and you kind of take all the tactics, they all fit under this. They fit under education, they fit under empathy and empowerment. And so I think in the mortgage coach land, you're going to see this framework talked about a lot for the next 30 days, because I think we need to start auditing our current business practices. I have found some real gaps for the C-suite and some real gaps for branch managers and some real gaps for loan officers, where you're losing lots of money and you're losing lots of efficiency because of some gaps in how we're approaching the market. So stay tuned for that report. It will hit the presses by June 15th. But I just want you to tell you, Kristin, I love this framework. If you're a loan officer, take a screenshot of this. You may not see everything I see at this point, but this is going to make a lot of sense and create a lot more value in the very near term. Deborah, anything you want to comment or ask on this?
No, I think it's right on. So one book I would recommend for people to read, trying to remember the title, the one that I was telling you about, Dave, Never Lose a Client.
Oh yeah.
Was that the title?
I'm doing the audiobook.
It is. Talk about, we spend so much time and focus on client acquisition and not enough on client retention, which is what I love about Sales Boomerang and the automation and just the trigger alerts, so that you can actually continue to maintain trust. Because I think a lot of times we focus on earning trust in the beginning, but then we fall off the wagon when it comes to maintaining it over the life of the client's journey with you. And so Sales Boomerang really helps make sure, through a strategic, systematic process that you don't have to think about, that you continue to be the captain of the wealth team for them, not just because it sounds good and you can get immediate conversion, but because you actually prove it to be true, that's going to be the differentiator of your brand. I have people that ask me all the time, how's Denise, she's actually up on her numbers from year to date from last year. And they're like, how in the world is she doing it? She had 25 closings just this week. I'm like, it's been through these things: education, empathy, empowerment. She's doubling down. She's working harder than she ever has. And she's focused on the client experience, because that's the triple threat right there.
Yeah, absolutely. So one aspect of the empowerment, and I'm going to have, I think, a lot that Deborah will have to speak to, and we've talked a little bit about it, but getting into some of the specific stuff after this, but I wanted to share this, which is based off of trauma-informed care, which we use in social work. And that's what I did before starting into my career now. But it sounds intense because you're like, trauma-informed care, how does that apply? But when you think about working with traumatized individuals, the number one thing that you need is to build trust. To get to any other outcome that you want, you have to build trust. And so that's why that model or that framework becomes really, really important. But I realized a couple of years ago that model was exactly what I was applying with lenders and helping them reach millennials and young and diverse markets, because trust was the number one key. If you get trust, you get everything. And so I wanted to share these tenets. I've talked about them before, so I won't spend too much time on them, but the things like a rent versus own, that creates a sense of safety and transparency, choice, collaboration. It's all of it, and I think whenever I got a TCA, I felt all of these things, that I was empowered to make a smart decision for myself, because I felt my body even felt the relief of it. Like I felt safer because I had the knowledge through transparency and choice and a collaborative experience with my loan officer to make a smart decision. So these types of things, I think, are if you use this as a lens through which you build your customer experience and you think about how you're connecting with your borrowers through in the experience and before and after, I think it's really important. And I'm going to share just a couple of stats on areas that, like, for example, of creating a sense of safety or empowering your borrowers, educating them, is thinking about where your borrowers go for information. We asked the millennial home buyers, where they go to learn about personal finance. By far, they always go to Google. That's no surprise, but thinking about the fact that Google and social media are in the top 3, that's important to recognize. Like, where are you putting your information, and where do you have reviews online, so that when someone gets the referral and they search for you, are they going to feel safe knowing that they are going to connect with you? I chose not to connect or work with a loan officer because I didn't see reviews of them online. And I know many, many people have that. And that's just one example. But then we started talking about this, and this is where I want to pause, but thinking about the channels that you use to deliver information or education or connection with your audience. Video has become a crucial way that we consume information. And so again, putting that empathy lens in place with the education and empowering them with information, creating YouTube videos is so, or just videos in general, is so important to being able to help them make, feel that they can build trust with you. And this survey was done last September. So in last September, 12% of people said they go to TikTok to learn more, or first to learn more about personal finance. I imagine that's much higher today. But what it tells us, it doesn't mean necessarily that you need to have a TikTok, but it means that we're consuming information in a very different way. And it's important to recognize how you're delivering your education. So Deborah, I'll pause here for you to speak up on this.
Well, and I think a lot of times people, and I know just because I have discovery calls all day, every day with loan officers who get really nervous about video, and I have extreme empathy for you. It's not always easy for me either. I can tell you just from looking at the back end and the analytics. In fact, if you haven't read the book Marketing Rebellion, I highly recommend you do, because there's a huge shift going on with marketing where especially the Gen Z and the millennials, they just don't trust it. And we have more and more people who are paying for ad blocking services like through Hulu, Spotify, because they don't want to be marketed to. They don't want to be sold to. They want real, raw, authentic truth. And so that's why things like TikTok, it's quick, it's to the point, it's clear, it's a little bit of that entertainment. But it's a way for them to feel your conviction and your energy. And it's the greatest way to have influence is through video. So don't get hung up on the details. In fact, I think was it Kyle Whistle? I hope I'm getting it right, Dave, who made that post where he was like, check out my cardboard box of a tripod today and my iPhone as my camera. Sometimes less is more. Like, it doesn't have to be perfectly branded and wrapped with your logo, because now that delivery system where it feels so professional, the mind thinks you're selling to them. Yeah. And that's why when I show clients the difference, how I can make the exact same post for you on your business page and then put the same one on a personal profile. And they're like, but I get so many more views on my personal profile. I'm like, that's because of the delivery mechanism. When it's a business page, they feel like they're being sold to. When it's your personal profile, they feel like you're informing and educating, because it's the delivery. That's how important context is, which, by the way, that is why you don't want to be delivering fee worksheets on a PDF. That's just your old school itemized, because that context and delivery, we underestimate how powerful it is in the way people make decisions. When you have something that they can pull up on their own terms that's live, like Mortgage Coach, that shows truth in numbers, or even things like Lender Launchpad. I love how experience.com integrates with Lender Launchpad and Mortgage Coach. Like, I am a huge fan and have been showing all of my clients that, because again, 2/3 of your marketing is going to be coming from your customers. And if they aren't raving fans and completing reviews, that's more believable when there's not a lot of trust, just simply because of the position you're in. So what's your defense?
So guys, part of, the research that Chris and I have done, the 15 plus interviews, the studying, what the industry is doing, one of the things that I'm going to be calling out on the industry is that we obsess over two things that they are super important things, but they shouldn't be our number one priority. First of all, I don't think there's a single mortgage company that doesn't have a leader scorecard, and it shows who are the best loan officers based on their production and their units. And we celebrate it. It takes half of our annual sales meetings to who's in the President's Club based on their production, who's in the who had the most units. And guys, I'm telling you right now, the thing that we need to put, and first of all, your success will go up as a company. Your success will go up as a loan officer. You start celebrating who has the best conversion, and who has the least amount of price exceptions and is the most profitable, and who has the best customer satisfaction scores. Trust me, if we start focusing on those metrics, we're going to do more loans and we're going to do a better job. And when it comes to millennials, and when you start like obsessing over conversion, things like the digital experience makes a difference. Things like social media, how pro were they on social media? Those things make a difference. So I would just push everybody in the industry that we need to start looking at that conversion. And then the other thing we need to do is there are people within every branch, there are people within every company that have the best conversion, that have the least price exceptions, that have the best customer satisfaction scores, that do the most loans for millennials, that have the best multicultural diversity within their platforms. If we start kind of celebrating the metrics underneath, how many loans did you close? How much production did you do? What's your paycheck? I'm telling you right now, I am supremely confident that the paychecks will go up, the production go up, everything else will go up. So, two things that I'm going to be putting in this thing that Kristin and I are working on is under recommendations. Start keeping score of the things that really matter to your organization beyond production, beyond closed loans, and then start consistently. I've been talking about doing 30-minute sales meetings, but I'm going to start calling them 30-minute weekly best practice sessions, where you find those metrics and then you celebrate the loan officer that's got the best metrics, and that he or she is teaching everyone else in their branch, in their region, in their company, those best practices. So Kristin, we got 3 more minutes. I want to make sure you have time for any closing thoughts, anything you want to comment on, and we'll wrap it up.
Just that I want to hear from everyone. I mean, if you have thoughts on solutions and, things that like fit within this framework, or ideas on some of the challenges that we've talked about, would love to hear from you as we build out this article. And and just in closing, to remind you that education, empathy, and empowerment, if you use that as a framework to build your customer experience and look at your marketing, then I think you'll be successful with the next gen homebuyer segment. And
Right.
Also, thanks for joining me on my last webinar, last meeting before I go on vacation. So
Norway,
this is
guys.
fun.
She's going to Norway. Take a train to
My
Switzerland.
suitcase is right here. So
Switzerland?
Norway and Sweden.
Oh, Sweden. That's right.
Yeah.
Have fun on that. Deborah Bird, if you don't mind putting on your Win by Noon hat and impersonating Todd Bookspan with a taking action closing.
Okay, so I want all of you on Mondays. I want Mondays to be your video recording days. I want y'all to make a commitment to just show up as you are. And I want you to study whether you focus on, maybe it's student loans for this month, and you look at the FHA guideline for the first Monday of the month. The second Monday you focus on, Fannie versus Freddie, because how you use that payment for student loan debt is different. And that could be a huge make or breaker for someone who's trying to qualify. And so Monday's video recording days, I want you to really focus on education and education around the student loan debt. And then Tuesdays, I want y'all all to promise me and tag me in your videos that you're going to do a TCA Tuesday where you go live, and you're going to start with a move up analysis and then a rent versus own. And I want to see them so that you guys take action and we help educate and we lead through empowering others while you audit your process. So one thing I was going to add to what Dave said is, sometimes we reward underwriters with how many times, a file goes back and forth. Well, maybe we need to start making some of the reward of, how many loans did you close this month and how many experience.com reviews did you gain? Every closing you have, are you getting at least one referral? And that's what Jeremy Forsyth said on his last call with us, is if he's doing 25 closings a month, he better have one referral from each closing to grow his pipeline for the next month. So the last thing I want to add is, just because you mentioned Todd Duncan, Dave, this is from Todd Duncan's High Trust Sales Academy. He said millennials rank word of mouth as the #1 influencer in their purchasing decisions, especially with big ticket financial decisions, while also baby boomers also rank word of mouth first as the marketing influencer for any financial product. So this is from the man himself from the High Trust Sales Academy just in December. Thought was interesting to share. So
Yeah.
back to you.
Thank you. And if you, just a reminder, if we could look out for some trust indexes and anything that helps us, kind of call out where we're at from a trust perspective. And then of course, Chris and I will continue as we focus on this millennial opportunity article that we're writing, talk about how to gain trust and how to create value. How do we get more millennials into homes? How do we get more millennials to upgrade, go from that first home to that second home? And even, sounds like you, third home, fourth home, whatever growth is for that family, whatever the goal is for that millennial, we want to help them make a great decision. So Kristin, have an awesome trip. I want to get you out of here on time. Take it easy. All right.
Thank you so
Have a
much.
good one.
Good to
All right,
see you guys.
everybody.
Bye.
If you got value, give it a like, subscribe to our channel, share this with your mortgage friends, share this with your executive teams, and this is a wrap. Take care of y'all.